Good afternoon, and welcome to the National Press Club. My name is Sonia Hilgren. I am president of the National Press Club and editor of Farm Journal. I'd like to welcome club members in the audience today and your guests, as well as those of you watching on C-SPAN, listening on National Public Radio, and on the Internet Global Computer Network. Before introducing our head table, I would like to remind our members of some upcoming events. On Wednesday, May 8th, the Governor of Hong Kong, Christopher Patten, will present a speech entitled Hong Kong, the Challenge of 1997. On Thursday, May 9th, Beverly Sills, former opera singer and current chairman of the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts, will talk about the future of the arts in a downsized world. And on Tuesday, May 14th, write them on the cards at your table, pass them up to me, and I will ask as many as time permits. I'd now like to introduce our head table guests and ask them to stand briefly when their names are called. From your right, Barry Schweid, Associated Press. Tamara Lytle, New Haven Register. Peter Slevin, Knight Ridder Newspapers. Hiroshi Sakaguchi, Chinichi Tokyo Shimbun. Jacqueline Thomas, Washington Bureau Chief, Detroit News. Charles Lewis, Washington Bureau Chief, Hearst Newspapers. Hassan Rahman, Chief PLO Representative in Washington. Peggy Robertson, freelance journalist and chairman of the National Press Club Speakers Committee. Jim Zogby, president and chairman of the Arab American Institute. Christy Wise, freelance journalist. Owen Allman, Business Week. Carol Rosenberg, Miami Herald. And Lee Katz, USA Today. In the fall of 1993, Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization made history by agreeing to end their bitter hostilities and work toward a lasting peace in the Middle East. Since today's speaker was last here in September 1993, the peace has certainly been tested by the assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who had been honored here and who had honored us here with his presence, by the renewed bloody violence in tiny Lebanon between Israel and Hezbollah militants, each bent on destroying one another. Despite these tests of the peace process, it indeed is moving on. The new Israeli Prime Minister, Shimon Peres, who met with President Clinton on Tuesday, declared here this week that what looked like an impossibility is becoming more and more a reality. Our speaker today, Palestinian National Authority President Yasser Arafat, terrorist turned peacemaker, would most certainly agree. He is a key player in deciding how this whole chapter of history will be written. Here this week, as an official guest of the President of the United States, with whom he met this morning, President Arafat is leading Palestine into self-rule and helping build the bridges that he, like Mr. Rabin and Mr. Peres, seemed bent on destroying only a few years ago. Just last week, Mr. Arafat's governing body dropped its long-held opposition to Israel's right to exist as a country. That move was considered essential to keeping the peace process on track as Israel approaches its May 29th elections. It was also an important step for winning American support for foreign aid to Palestine, something Mr. Arafat hopes to get during his visit here. Known around the world by his trademark, keffiyeh, and military garb, our guest has succeeded in redefining himself on the world political stage. He has also been learning that being a father to his growing baby daughter has its own set of demands one never learns on the military and political battlefield. What lies ahead for Palestine, Israel, and the greater region we know as the Middle East, perhaps few people are better positioned to tell us than today's speaker, Palestinian President Yasser Arafat.
If you permit me, I speak in Arabic. أولا أنا سعيد جدا لوجودي في هذه الزيارة لهذا البلد الصديق وهذا اللقاء الحار والدافئ الذي تم بيني وبين الرئيس كلينتون صباح هذا اليوم.
I would like to express my pleasure at being here on this trip and for visiting the United States of America and for the warm reception I had this morning from President Clinton.
حقيقة أنه لقاء دافئ ولكنه إيجابي وبناء ومفيد.
It was a warm reception, it was a warm meeting, but at the same time it was a fruitful and productive meeting.
أنا أتيكم من منطقة ساخنة ومليئة بالأحداث.
I come from a hot region, full of events.
أحداث ساخنة وصعبة ولكنها في نفس الوقت أحداث مصيرية ليس بالنسبة للشرق الأوسط فحسب ولكن بالنسبة للعالم أجمع.
Well, yes, it is a difficult region. It's a hot region. It faces issues that are not only of concern to our region, but to the humanity at large.
أنتم كما تعرفون أننا مررنا بظروف صعبة وشاقة في الأيام الأخيرة.
You know, we have undergone very difficult and trying moments in the last few weeks.
Actually, not few weeks, but the last 3 months.
Yes, the last 12 months.
حقيقة نحن نواجه تحديات كبيرة.
We face very serious challenges.
أولى هذه التحديات هي المتغيرات التي تدور حولنا.
First of which are or on top of those challenges are those changes that are taking place around us.
وأهمها هذه الأحداث هي الانتخابات الفلسطينية التي نحن فخورين بها حيث كانت تجري تحت إشراف دولي بصورة نفتخر بها ونعتز.
Among the most important events of the last more than few weeks is the Palestinian elections, which took place under international supervision and were among the most prominent events of the recent times.
وإن دلت هذه الانتخابات على شيء فإنما تدل على تمسك شعبنا بالسلام وتمسكه بهذا الطريق والحفاظ عليه.
Those elections are an indication, a very important indication, of the commitment of our people to the peace process and their determination to pursue the path of peace.
إنهم لم يصوتوا لي فقط، هم صوتوا للسلام.
They did not vote for me alone, they voted for peace.
لم يصوتوا للمجلس التشريعي ولكن صوتوا للسلام.
They did not vote only for the legislative council, the Palestinian legislative, but they also voted for peace.
ولمعلوماتكم إنه نسبة المشاركين في هذه الانتخابات وصلت إلى حوالي 84% من عدد سكاننا.
And the wide participation, which amounted to about 84% of the electorate in those elections, are an indication of the commitment of our people to the peace process.
وأنتم كما تلاحظون أنها نسبة عالية.
And this is a very high percentage.
ونحن كما قلت أنها تصويت لعملية السلام وتصويت من أجل استمرار السلام بيننا وبين جيراننا الإسرائيليين.
This amounted to a referendum on the peace process and to peaceful coexistence with our neighbors, the Israelis.
بالرغم من هذا كما تعرفون هنالك أحداث كثيرة صعبة مرت.
In addition to this positive developments, there are also difficult and trying challenges that we face.
أنا لا أستطيع أن أنسى أنني فقدت شريكي في عملية السلام السيد إسحاق رابين رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي الذي كان ضحية لهذا الإرهاب الأعمى.
It is difficult for me to forget that I lost my partner in the peace process, Mr. Rabin, who was a victim of terrorism against peace.
ولكن التحدي الذي كان أمامي وأمام السيد بيريز بعد ذلك أن نكمل عملية السلام.
And the challenge that faced us in the aftermath of the assassination of our partner Rabin, for Mr. Peres, Mr. Shimon Peres, and for myself, is how to pursue the peace process in order to finish the job that we started out together.
وكذلك لابد أن نقول أن هنالك عمليات إرهابية حاولت ضرب ليس الإسرائيليين فقط إنما ضرب الإسرائيليين والفلسطينيين وعملية السلام بمجملها.
And there were other terrorist acts that were directed not only against the Israelis but were also directed against the peace process and the Palestinian people.
ولكن بالرغم من هذا فنحن مصممين على عملية السلام.
And in spite of all those challenges, we are determined to forge ahead with the peace process.
وهذا ما أثبته ووضحه نتائج اجتماعات مجلسنا الوطني الفلسطيني الذي انعقد في غزة مؤخرا.
And that was proven by the decisions that were taken by the Palestinian National Council, which was held in Gaza last week.
وكذلك هذه النتائج وهذا التصويت ليس تصويتا لأفراد ولكن تصويتا لعملية السلام.
And the outcome of the vote in the National Council was not a vote in support of individuals, but it was a vote in support of the peace process.
وكما قلت للسيد الرئيس اليوم لقد وعدتك في شرم الشيخ بالنسبة للميثاق الوطني الفلسطيني الذي صوت المجلس على تغييره وإلغاء بنوده التي تتعارض مع اتفاقات بيننا وبين الإسرائيليين والرسائل المتبادلة.
And I told the President Clinton this morning that I promised him in Sharm el-Sheikh that we will fulfill our commitment by eliminating those articles in the Charter that are in contradiction with our commitments under the peace agreement, and we fulfilled our commitment.
وكذلك لا نستطيع أن ننسى الأحداث المؤلمة التي حدثت ضد الشعبين اللبناني والفلسطيني في لبنان.
But we cannot also forget the tragic and sad events that happened in the South Lebanon against the Lebanese and the Palestinian people.
لقد دفع الشعب اللبناني ثمنا غاليا ومعه اللاجئين الفلسطينيين المتواجدين هنالك.
The Lebanese people paid a very high price, and also our Palestinian refugees who are living in Lebanon also paid a high price.
وبلا شك لقد قلت من البداية أنني ضد هذه العمليات.
And I said from the very beginning that I was opposed and against those military operations in the south of Lebanon.
ودعوت إلى العودة السريعة إلى اتفاق 93.
And I called for the return of the implementation of the agreements of 1993.
وأنا سعيد أن الوسطاء تمكنوا من مرة أخرى الوصول إلى صيغة 93 وإعادة الأوضاع كما هي على طبيعتها الأولى في لبنان.
And I'm pleased to know that the mediations by mediators succeeded in putting an end to the bloody conflict in the south of Lebanon and to return to the 1993 accord in order to normalize the situation in the south of Lebanon.
بجانب هذا شعبنا يواجه حصاراً اقتصادياً، يواجه عقوبة جماعية، يواجه إغلاق وعقوبات كبيرة يقوم بها الطرف الآخر ضدنا.
And in addition to the sad and tragic events that happened in the south of Lebanon, our people, our Palestinian people, are facing a very serious economic siege as a result of the closure. It is resulting in a collective punishment, economic difficulties for our people, and it is really posing a very, very difficult situation for our people.
على سبيل المثال 120,000 عامل من عمالنا فقدوا أعمالهم.
As an example, 120,000 Palestinians are unemployed as a result of the Israeli closure.
بالجانب هذا صادراتنا ووارداتنا تواجه متاعب كبيرة.
All our exports and imports are facing difficulties, serious difficulties.
خسائرنا اليومية من هذا الحصار والإغلاق أكثر من 6 مليون دولار.
Our net results, net losses as a result of the closures amounts to about $6 million daily.
وهذا مبلغ كبير بالنسبة لدولة ناشئة مثلنا.
And this is a very big loss for an emerging state like ourselves.
نحن لسنا دولة بترولية.
We are not an oil-producing country.
احنا الاحتلال دمر بنيتنا التحتية تدميرا كاملا.
Israeli prolonged military occupation destroyed the infrastructure of Palestine.
واحنا نبدأ ما دون الصفر.
And we are starting from below zero.
من المية التي نشربها إلى الكهرباء، إلى الطرق، إلى المجاري، إلى المدارس، إلى المستشفيات.
Every aspect of our life is affected. Water that we drink, schools, hospitals, roads, telecommunications, everything. We start electricity,
sewage. وبالرغم من هذا فهنا كان الإعجاز في تصويت المجلس الوطني الفلسطيني.
And this was the miracle of really achieving what we achieved in the Palestinian National Council.
اجتمع المجلس الوطني الفلسطيني في غزة مؤخرا في وسط هذه المتاعب والمصاعب التي نواجهها.
The National Council met in the midst of all those difficulties that we are facing.
ومع ذلك فالقرار كان مع السلام.
And the results, the decision was for peace.
وهذا كما قلت مرة أخرى يثبت لكم جميعا أن شعبنا مع السلام الشجعان، مع السلام العادل والشامل في المنطقة.
This is an evidence that our people are supporting the peace of the brave, and they are supporting the comprehensive and just peace in our region.
مرة أخرى أعود لهذا اللقاء الهام الذي جرى بيني وبين السيد الرئيس اليوم، باعتباره أول حاجة أنا بتقدم بالشكر لفخامة الرئيس على إتاحة لي هذه الفرصة الهامة والطيبة في هذا الاجتماع البناء والإيجابي.
I take this opportunity to offer my appreciation to President Clinton for the meeting I had with him this morning, which was very productive and fruitful meeting.
وأهم نقطة أنا بعتقد هو أننا شكلنا وافق فخامته على أن تكون هنالك لجنة أمريكية فلسطينية لمتابعة كل المواضيع المشتركة.
His Excellency President Clinton agreed to form a joint Palestinian-American commission that will deal with all issues of mutual concern for us and for the United States.
وبالإضافة إلى أنه تفهم متاعبنا بما فيها متاعبنا الاقتصادية.
And he expressed his sympathy with the difficulties that we are facing, especially our economic difficulties.
ووعد بأن يبذل مجهودا مع جميع الأطراف بما فيها donors.
And he promised that he will exert all efforts in order to help us, including with the donor countries.
ومع البنك الدولي.
And with the World Bank.
وأنا الآن بعد ما أنتهي من لقائكم أنا ذاهب للقاء مع السيد ويلفنستون رئيس البنك الدولي.
And after I leave here, I will be heading to a meeting with the President of the World Bank.
Mr. Wilfenstone.
Mr. Wilfenstone.
الولايات المتحدة لها دور رئيسي في عملية السلام في الشرق الأوسط.
The United States plays an important and central role in the peace process in our region.
فهي أحد راعيي عملية السلام.
It is one of the two sponsors of the peace process.
ولا ننسى أنه أوسلو وقعت هنا في البيت الأبيض، أوسلو 1 وأوسلو 2 وقعت في البيت الأبيض.
The two agreements, Oslo I and Oslo II, were both signed in the White House.
وكذلك وقع جزء من الاتفاق في القاهرة.
And part of that agreement also was signed in Cairo.
ولذلك فالولايات المتحدة عليها دور هام جدا لتثبيت عملية السلام.
The United States plays an important role in consolidating the peace process and forging ahead.
وهنا هذه المسؤولية هي مسؤولية دولية.
And also, in addition to being the responsibility of the United States, also it is an international responsibility to support the peace process.
المجتمع الدولي.
It is the responsibility of the international community to support us in our peace efforts.
فالسلام ليس مطلبا إسرائيلي فلسطينيا فقط، وإنما هو مطلب فلسطيني إسرائيلي عربي دولي.
Peace is not only a Palestinian requirement, it is also an Israeli requirement, it is an Arab requirement, and it is an international demand also.
أنا لا أريد أن أخذ من وقتكم كثيرا لأن أنا بعرف أنه لديكم بعض الأسئلة، ولكن ما not to squeeze me too much with your questions.
I don't want to take much further of your time. I know that you have many questions to ask, and I hope that...
Not to squeeze me.
Mr. President, what will it take for Israel and Syria to make peace? Does Hafez Assad need to maintain a state of hostility to stay in power?
وهل حضر الأسد بحاجة إلى دائما في عنف على في السلطة؟
بلا شك أنه في من لما ذهبنا إلى مدريد ولا زال الهدف الذي نسعى عليه هو comprehensive, lasting, peaceful solution in the whole area.
When we went to Madrid, we went to achieve a comprehensive, lasting,
peaceful solution
in our region.
In our region, with the Palestinians and the Israelis, with the Jordanians and the Israelis, with the Syrians and the Israelis, with the Lebanese and the Israelis. For this, we have to look to strengthen more and more the peace process. And in the same time, we hope that the track, the Syrian track and the Lebanese track will follow up. Maybe it is difficult before the end of the Israeli election, but no doubt it will follow up after that.
Mr. President, could you elaborate on the Joint American-Palestinian Commission, which you said President Clinton promised? How will it be funded? Where will it be located? Will Palestinians be on the commission itself? Will its goals conflict with U.S. military and economic support of Israel?
This is still start, and we hope it will be a very good start and a strong start. We are in need of it.
Part of the recent Israeli-Lebanon ceasefire agreement was the rebuilding of towns in southern Lebanon destroyed by Israeli attacks. Would this rebuilding effort divert needed funds which could be used in the development of the Palestinian-controlled lands?
Definitely it will not affect our line, our march, our track. It will strengthen it, and we are looking for it. And from the beginning, I had mentioned it clearly and obviously to stop this military activity and to return back to the agreement of '93.
Palestine has been promised $1.3 billion in aid, but has received only $27 million.
How much?
27 million. Will you receive more now that your charter no longer calls for destruction of Israel?
Actually, I had been promised in the last meeting took place, I was there, that they will pay me in 96, $1,365 million, $500 million, which had not been paid in '95, and the rest, which they had promised me to be paid in this year. This means that at least the last 4 months is between $400 and $470 million I had to receive. But I am sorry to say that I had only received $27 million. For this, it is an appeal from me to all the donors not to leave us alone.
Furthermore, in light...
Because how we can, and I will speak frankly, can you live peacefully and easily while your neighbor is facing starvation, is facing dramatic situation? Not. And reflect negatively in the whole peace process. I am sorry to say that now we are paying the price of the peace.
Why are the West Bank poorer today than when the peace agreement with Israel was signed?
We didn't hear the question. تقول لك ليش الضفة الغربية وغزة اليوم أفقر مما كانوا عليه قبل عملية السلام؟
Simple and clear. The closure, the collective punishment. 120,000 of our laborers had lost their works. No facilities for our exports, and many difficulties in our face for our exports. And all the promises which had been offered to us, very little of it had been fulfilled.
Is it time now for Representative Gilman to release his whole $13 million in U.S. aid to the Palestinian Authority?
I hope so.
How do you plan to attract business investments to a region still racked by political turmoil?
تجذب الاستثمارات الأجنبية بينما ما زال في عنف.
There is violence everywhere. Did the violence in America, of Oklahoma as an example, has stopped the investment? Or which took place in Japan, had stopped the increase of their capitals in all levels? Or in France? Give me one country which there is no troubles there. Where? The most important thing, to speak frankly, that one of the most important platforms to decrease the facilities of these fanatic groups is to increase the investment and the level مستوى المعيشة.
The quality of life.
The quality of life. This is very important. Very important. You have to understand what the meaning of starvation.
Are you beginning to see investments by Palestinian Americans in the areas under your control?
Some of them had already started. As an example, the airport, which we had started, is a joint venture between some Palestinian Americans here and Egyptian company. And also the same with the telecommunications, the same with the industrial zones. And we are offering all the facilities for the investment. And in the same time, I hope that Israel will reduce its collective punishments against our people, against our areas.
What will it take for Palestine to become a member of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank?
Very soon. Very soon.
But what will it take for that to happen?
I think this cannot be done until we will finish the final status of the negotiations.
What are realistic expectations for the Israeli-Palestinian talks in Jerusalem, on Jerusalem and the West Bank beginning on Sunday?
I know this is a very delicate point, but we have to return back to what had been agreed upon. Jerusalem, with other issues like refugees, settlements, borders, the foreign relations, is the issues which will be discussed in the final talks, which will start next Sunday in Taba. But in the same time, we are not asking for the moon. We are for what we agreed upon to be implemented accurately, honestly, including you remember, we had participated in Madrid conference according to President Bush initiative, land for peace, and implement on the platform of 242 and 338. And we are not asking not more than the international resolution to be implemented.
How were you able to convince the Palestinian National Council to amend its charter to delete the 32-year-old calls for the destruction of Israel?
Do you think it was easy? It took from me months of negotiations. You don't know our democracy. Our democracy is very difficult. This is a democracy. You negotiate to open talks with all the parties or the organizations whose body, even with our movement, even with my movement. I was obliged to open talks for many hours. And when I'm speaking hours, I'm speaking about more than ولكن when I am speaking about the talks, I'm not speaking about 5 or 6 hours, about more than 200 hours of talking, negotiating. But this proves that, as I have mentioned before, they took the resolution and accepted the resolution because they voted for the peace process,
for the promise of peace,
for what we had promised in our agreements with our partners, and what we had promised. And they had promised for the future, for the peace of the peace.
You changed your charter, but have the Palestinians changed their dream of taking control of all of Palestine?
I will not answer this. What every time we offer something, he said, not enough, not enough. There is one point here, there is another point there. What? Unfair. This is unfair question. Unfair question. Unfair question.
How will the outcome of the May 29th Israeli elections influence the peace process?
I don't interfere.
Do you miss Yitzhak Rabin?
No doubt. He was a brave man. He was my partner. whom I had signed here in Washington in the White House, Oslo I and Oslo II. I can't forget it. The peace of the braves. I lost a friend, I lost a cousin, and I lost my partner. As I have mentioned, but Mr. Perez had fulfilled what we had agreed, and we continued the peace process.
Why do leaders such as Anwar Sadat and Yitzhak Rabin have to give their lives for peace?
For this, we call it the peace of the braves, because there are many enemies against the peace. Many enemies everywhere. But this challenge between those who are looking to achieve peace and the enemies of the peace. But I am sure that the peace is not only, as I had mentioned, a Palestinian need or an Israeli need or an Arab need. It is an international need. For this, we are in need of your support by different means to protect the peace of the braves.
What advice would you give to the Hamas in their dealings with the Israelis and the Israelis in their dealing with the Hamas? And what lessons can Israel and the U.S. learn from the evolution of the PLO for dealing with the Hezbollah?
I'm not here to give any advices, but you have to ask Abshai Raouf, the leader of Ayal movement. If you remember, I had mentioned this before the assassination of my partner Rabin in Harvard University, because in one of their communique, this is an Israeli fanatic group in which they had mentioned that they will continue killing Palestinians and Jews to destroy the peace process. And in a very important interview with Abshai Raouf in Yerushalayim Israeli newspaper, he had mentioned that he had met Hamas leaders and Islamic Jihad leaders many times. They were playing cards? Definitely not.
What alternatives does Israel have to military actions to protect its northern border against Hezbollah terrorist shellings?
To with the peace process, with all their efforts, the two sides, not one side. In the Palestinian, as it had happened in the Palestinian track or the Jordanian track, must be also progress in the Lebanese track and in the Syrian track.
Can the Palestinian-Israeli problem really be solved without a solution to the Hezbollah-Israeli difficulty? And that means some agreement between Syria and Israel.
I am not accepting this idea. Hezbollah is one of the fanatic oration, but not the Lebanese people and not the Lebanese government.
Do you feel that the American press presents a fair and unbiased picture of events in the Middle East?
It is very difficult for me to answer this question. I'm not coming here to challenge anybody.
How is this visit different from your previous visits to Washington and the White House?
هذه زيارة عمل خاصة.
This is a business working visit to the White House.
وحققنا فيها حتى الآن الشيء الكثير.
And we achieved a great deal on this trip.
وكما قلت لا أنسى اللقاء الدافئ والإيجابي والبناء مع الرئيس كلينتون.
And this was a very warm, productive and fruitful meeting with President Clinton.
Did President Clinton commit the United States to the security of the Palestinians as he is committed to the security of Israel?
هو تكلم عن أمن الجميع.
He spoke of his commitment to the security of everyone, including
and for the whole region.
And for the region as a whole.
Do you foresee the constitution of a Palestinian state as a country in your future before the end of the century?
Yes, yes, yes. No doubt. It is coming. No one can hide the sun with his fingers.
Should pilgrims worry about visiting Jerusalem this June? Do you expect more violence after the elections?
Definitely not. And for your information, we are preparing for this international religious celebration of the 2,000 years of Jesus Christ. And we had discussed this with His Holiness the Pope, with the Archbishop of Canterbury, with the Patriarch of the Orthodox, with the Pope of Shenouda, Pope Shenouda of the Copts, and we are preparing for it, so that you are all of you are invited, and I hope that you will accept my invitation to this very important celebration.
Will you invite President Clinton to visit your land?
Definite. Open.
You say you achieved a great deal on this trip, but apart from the American-Palestinian Committee, what did you achieve specifically in economic aid?
As I have mentioned that they will carry on with the donors and with the others, and also in many levels to help us in this very critical situation, and especially for the very bad economical situation which we are facing.
You are now the father of both an infant daughter and an infant nation. Which is more difficult to raise?
The daughter.
The daughter.
Because truly, I am working very hard. I haven't had time to see her.
How do you like being a father, and what will you tell your daughter about your past?
She will read it.
Given the thousands of years of political and social strife as being the norm, what makes you believe you will be able to bring lasting peace to the Middle East?
What had happened is not a joke. The peace of the braves. After this long confrontation, we are building with our partners the peace of the braves. Not only for our needs or their needs, for the international need.
What do you think of the anti-terrorist agreement signed by President Clinton and Mr. Peres? How will it affect the lives of Palestinians under the Israeli closure?
First, they know that we are doing all our best to face terror. And no doubt, this terror is not against the Israelis or the Americans or the Europeans or the Arabs, but also against the Palestinians and against the whole peace process.
Last night you mentioned the recognition of Palestine's national legitimacy was important for Middle Eastern peace. What happens if that recognition is not achieved? Will you still honor the commitment to peace?
I am optimistic. It is coming, sooner or later.
How can this
This is the current of the history. No one can stop it.
How can the ceasefire in Lebanon hold? I think that all the partners will follow up what had been signed, and they will respect the agreement of 1993. I would like to thank you for appearing before us again today and give you another certificate of appreciation and a National Press Club mug for coffee during all those hours of tea, sorry about that, tea for all those hours of negotiations. And I'd like to ask one last question. As one of the world's most well-known and long-standing political leaders, to what do you attribute your longevity?
God. I am a strong believer. God.
God. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, would everyone please remain seated so that Mr. Arafat and his party can leave without any obstruction?
Guess who's president today? Which is a totally legitimate. Give him a whole life because he has.
Thank you very much for coming today, and thank you to our staff here at the National Press Club, and good day.
بصورة نفتخر بها ونعتز.
Among the most important events of the last more than few weeks is the Palestinian elections, which took place under international supervision and were among the most prominent events of the recent times.
وإن دلت هذه الانتخابات على شيء فإنما تدل على تمسك شعبنا بالسلام وتمسكه بهذا الطريق والحفاظ عليه.
Those elections are an indication, a very important indication, of the commitment of our people to the peace process and their determination to pursue the path of peace.
إنهم لم يصوتوا لي فقط، هم صوتوا للسلام.
They did not vote for me alone, they voted for peace.
لم يصوتوا للمجلس التشريعي ولكن صوتوا للسلام.
They did not vote only for the legislative council, the Palestinian legislative, but they also voted for peace.
ولمعلوماتكم أنه نسبة المشاركين في هذه الانتخابات وصلت إلى حوالي 84% من عدد سكاننا.
And the wide participation, which amounted to about 84% of the electorate in those elections, are an indication of the commitment of our people to the peace process.
وأنتم كما تلاحظون أنها نسبة عالية.
And this is a very high percentage.
ونحن كما قلت أنها تصويت لعملية السلام وتصويت من أجل استمرار السلام بيننا وبين جيراننا الإسرائيليين.
This amounted to a referendum.
أحداث ساخنة وصعبة ولكنها في نفس الوقت أحداث مصيرية ليس بالنسبة للشرق الأوسط فحسب ولكن بالنسبة للعالم أجمع.
Well, yes, it is a difficult region. It's a hot region. It faces issues that are not only of concern to our region, but to the humanity at large.
أنتم كما تعرفون أننا مررنا بظروف صعبة وشاقة في الأيام الأخيرة.
You know, we have undergone very difficult and trying moments in the last few weeks.
Actually, not few weeks, but the last 3 months.
Yes, the last 12 months.
حقيقة نحن نواجه تحديات كبيرة.
We face very serious challenges.
أولى هذه التحديات هي المتغيرات التي تدور حولنا.
First of which are or on top of those challenges are those changes that are taking place around us.
وأهمها هذه الأحداث هي الانتخابات الفلسطينية التي نحن فخورين بها حيث كانت تجري تحت إشراف دولي.
Good afternoon and welcome to the National Press Club. My name is Sonia Hilgren. I am president of the National Press Club and editor of Farm Journal. I'd like to welcome club members in the audience today and your guests, as well as those of you watching on C-SPAN, listening on National Public Radio, and on the Internet Global Computer Network. Before introducing our head table, I would like to remind our members of some upcoming events. On Wednesday, May 8th, the Governor of Hong Kong, Christopher Patten, will present a speech entitled Hong Kong, the Challenge of 1997. On Thursday, May 9th, Beverly Sills, former opera singer and current chairman of the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts, will talk about the future of the arts in a downsized world. And on Tuesday, May 14th, write them on the cards at your table, pass them up to me, and I will ask as many as time permits. I'd now like to introduce our head table guests and ask them to stand briefly when their names are called. From your right, Barry Schweid, Associated Press. Tamara Lytle, New Haven Register. Peter Slevin, Knight Ridder Newspapers. Hiroshi Sakaguchi, Chinichi Tokyo Shimbun. Jacqueline Thomas, Washington Bureau Chief, Detroit News. Charles Lewis, Washington Bureau Chief, Hearst Newspapers. Hassan Rahman, Chief PLO Representative in Washington. Peggy Robertson, freelance journalist and chairman of the National Press Club Speakers Committee. Jim Zogby, president and chairman of the Arab American Institute. Christy Wise, freelance journalist. Owen Allman, Business Week. Carol Rosenberg, known around the world by his trademark, keffiyeh, and military garb, our guest has succeeded in redefining himself on the world political stage. He has also been learning that being a father to his growing baby daughter has its own set of demands one never learns on the military and political battlefield. What lies ahead for Palestine, Israel, and the greater region we know as the Middle East, perhaps few people are better positioned to tell us than today's speaker, Palestinian President Yasser Arafat.
If you permit me, I'll speak in Arabic. أولاً أنا سعيد جداً لوجودي في هذه الزيارة لهذا البلد الصديق وهذا اللقاء الحار والدافئ الذي تم بيني وبين الرئيس كلينتون صباح هذا اليوم.
I would like to express my pleasure at being here on this trip and for visiting the United States of America and for the warm reception I had this morning from President Clinton.
حقيقة أنه لقاء دافئ ولكنه إيجابي وبناء ومفيد.
It was a warm reception, it was a warm meeting, but at the same time it was a fruitful and productive meeting.
أنا أتيكم من منطقة ساخنة ومليئة بالأحداث.
I come from a hot region, full of events.
Miami Herald and Lee Katz, USA Today. In the fall of 1993, Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization made history by agreeing to end their bitter hostilities and work toward a lasting peace in the Middle East. Since today's speaker was last here in September 1993, the peace has certainly been tested by the assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who had honored us here with his presence, by the renewed bloody violence in tiny Lebanon between Israel and Hezbollah militants, each bent on destroying one another. Despite these tests of the peace process, it indeed is moving on. The new Israeli Prime Minister, Shimon Peres, who met with President Clinton on Tuesday, declared here this week that what looked like an impossibility is becoming more and more a reality. Our speaker today, Palestinian National Authority President Yasser Arafat, terrorist turned peacemaker, would most certainly agree. He is a key player in deciding how this whole chapter of history will be written. Here this week, as an official guest of the President of the United States, with whom he met this morning, President Arafat is leading Palestine into self-rule and helping build the bridges that he, like Mr. Rabin and Mr. Peres, seemed bent on destroying only a few years ago. Just last week, Mr. Arafat's governing body dropped its long-held opposition to Israel's right to exist as a country. That move was considered essential to keeping the peace process on track as Israel approaches its May 29th elections. It was also an important step for winning American support for foreign aid to Palestine, something Mr. Arafat hopes to get during his visit here.